So the Reeve, our good old buddy Oswald, he gives a lot of description about everything because it's part of his personality. I'm gonna analyze that later or something. I'm just gonna poorly draw it so I don't have to describe it or else we'd be here for hours. Okay, cool. So the story takes place in this place called Trumpington, and there's a miller that lives in a mill by a river. Shocker. His name's Simon Simpkin, and he has a daughter, a wife, a baby, and a habit of stealing grain. Then the Reeve explains all of this in detail for 2 pages of verse, and all that's really important is his daughter is like 20 and attractive. The miller grinds the grain from the college in Cambridge pretty often. Then the college principal gets sick, like almost dead sick, and the miller decides he wants all the grain. And the warden notices that the amount of grain is significantly lower than usual and calls him out on it. But the miller doesn't give a bean and says, "No, didn't do it." And another few pages of verse, the Reeve tells us about the protagonists. They're students at this college and their names are John and Alan. They bet the warden that if they took the grain from the miller, wouldn't steal any of it for night and day. At this point, he probably couldn't care less if they actually ended up dying, so he lets them go. They take the warden's horse over to the mill, so they give the miller the grain and stand around making sure everything goes unstolen. So this goes on for a while, and they're just sitting there watching it attentively at the different parts of the grain milling process when the miller slips out, unties her horse, slaps its rear, it runs off, and comes back and goes right back to work. So the miller gives them all the grain, and their horse is gone. They're all freaking out and panicking, and the miller says, "Oh no, how could this happen? I have no idea." And then the miller's wife comes out, and she's like, "Oh, I saw it go that way." And then they ran out after it, and they left their grain. So they ran around looking for the horse for a really long time. It wasn't until night that they found it. They go back to the miller's in search of shelter. The miller then says, "Well, there's really only one room, but you learned men can claim you can make 20 feet yet broad as infinite space, so why don't you go ahead and try?" So they pay the miller the silver, and he makes them dinner, and the miller gets super drunk, like another miller we know. So they all head to bed, and the beds aren't very far apart from each other. It kind of looks like something like this. The miller and his wife sleep 10 feet away from the boys, and the mother has her own bed, and the baby's crib is right beside the mother, and literally everyone in the house snores really loudly. So the boys can't sleep, and Alan says, "Hey John, this sucks. We lost all our grain. We have to chase down our horse. We had to pay the miller for the stupid bed that I can't even sleep in. I'm going to go sleep with his daughter now." So then he takes a walk on over there and pounces on her, and they start having their fun. So our boy John, he's stuck listening to the snoring and the fun having. So he decides he's going to pull his own shenanigans. And he moves the cradle. This cradle is the only indication of which bed is theirs, from the wife's side over to his. The wife then gets out of bed for no reason other than plot convenience. It's the only thing the Reeve doesn't describe in detail. He comes back and gets in John's bed because she thinks it's her own, and then John starts getting on with the miller's wife. So when it gets to the morning, Alan goes to get in his bed beside John. He sees the cradle. He's like, "Oh dang, that was close. I almost just jumped in right beside the miller." Then he jumps in right beside the miller. So Alan, the intellectual he is, he grabs the miller and goes, "John, we gotta bolt. I know where we can get the grain. The miller's daughter told me after I slept with her." The miller proceeds to assault Alan because he just slept with his daughter, and they start fighting. The miller falls on his wife, and he goes, "Ah, Simon, these boys are attacking." So she and John both go to find a stick, but she finds it first, and she bonks her husband on the head with it on accident. He yells, "Oh God, I'm dying!" And then both boys then assault him for a hot second. They then run off with their horse and the grain and the cornmeal and the ground cake, and everything's good.
Well, obviously we have a rapist in Lincoln Park. He's climbing in your windows, he's snatching your people up, trying to rape them. So y'all need to hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband, cause they raping everybody.